I'm excited to be here today. I really am blessed that Kevin and Brian kind of go through all the topics that we talk about. And when he sent out all of our lists and kind of sent it to each of us and said, is everybody good with this? Are you good with what you've been assigned? I was like, this is awesome. He threw me a softball, like love. Like, how can you not talk about God's love? It's the very basis of everything that we do. So it was kind of an easy thing for me to kind of step into. So this morning I did a little study on Advent because I didn't grow up with this sort of, tradition. I didn't grow up celebrating Advent and stepping through different candles. And so I did find out this morning that Advent means coming, for anyone who didn't know that. So it was kind of established to sort of celebrate the coming of our King and also in anticipation of his second coming and of his return. So I just kind of wanted to give us that second this morning to kind of posture, like, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about Advent? What's the point? Why did we talk about hope last week, which Leon, that was awesome. All week long, Kevin and I both kept saying to each other over and over again, if you can't hope it, it's never going to happen. If you can't hope it, it won't be. And we just kept saying that to each other. I'm like, what a powerful phrase. What a powerful thing to think about is that God placed that hope. The Father gave us that hope. And if we're not living in that, then we don't have this open door for things to just be kind of worked through. And so it's just been a really encouraging, awesome thing just to kind of live in. So this week we are going to talk about love. We're going to talk about the love of the Father. The big thing that I want to focus on and kind of the theme, I'm going to sort of camp out a little bit in 1 John 4 in the verses 7 through 21. And I just want us to sort of recalibrate what love means. And I want us to remember that love is a person. It has a definition, which is the Father. The word says many times, God is love. And so in order for us to have a basis to receive it, to operate in it, to give it, to live in it, any of it, we have to understand who he is. We have to understand his nature, his very being. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about this morning. And that's sort of what he's been sort of unraveling in my life. And you guys most of you who come have heard my story. You've heard the things that I've been through over the last couple of years. And I was even just kind of tearing up a little bit this morning during the technical craziness for different reasons than why Kevin was tearing up, but more. First of all, I think we all realize now that I'm the glue, right? So if there's no keys, Caleb, it just falls apart. Sorry. No, he opened with reckless love, which, I think I shared this story probably the first time that Scott's talking about that I shared when I kind of started opening up a little bit about walking out and struggling with depression and anxiety. And it kind of was revealed to me through that song. I was on the treadmill one day and I was listening to that song. We were actually working on music for City Worship Night, which, believe it or not, has been going on that long as well. And one of the songs was Reckless Love. And when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, I can't stand this song. Don't like this song. And I was listening to it, and I was on the treadmill, and I was listening to the music, and I was just having this dialogue with the Lord and just kind of bringing to mind some of the things that he had been saying to me, and that at the core of me was this idea that I wasn't enough. And at the core of me was this thought that I wasn't valued. And I was just kind of dialoguing with God about that. And I just said, Lord, why is that? Like, where did that come from? Can you show me this point in my history, in my life, in my story, that lie came in, so that way I have something that I can like point to and denounce and say, this person spoke that over me, or this thing happened, or whatever it may be. And I was on the treadmill and that song came on, and it was just this beautiful moment, because God said, Jamie, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you the day that I declared you to have value. And he just kind of reminded me a little bit of my story when I was born. My parents were in the delivery room with me, and the doctor had kind of told them to just go ahead and let me die. My cord was wrapped around my neck and my face was blue, and they said it's not worth it. Like, she's going to be too complicated. Which little did you know. But she's going to be too difficult she's going to have it just let it go. Just let it go. And but instead God said, no, this child has value. And so that was just kind of the moment that God just showed me. He said, look, from the beginning, don't worry about where it got off track. I want to come back to what I said it, and I said it in the beginning. And to me, that's the core of love as well, right? Is that it starts with the Father, it ends with the Father, it's in the middle of the Father, always has been, it's always will be. It's a part of who he is. So I just want to read this passage. I'm going to go through a few verses, and I just kind of want to talk through it a little bit. So starting 1 John chapter 4 and verse 7, my beloved friends, let us continue to love each other, since love comes from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and experiences a relationship with God. The person who refuses to love doesn't know the first thing about God, because God is love. So you can't know him if you don't love. This is how God showed his love for us. He sent his only Son into the world so we might live through him. This is the kind of love that we are talking about. Not that we once upon a time loved God, but that he loved us, sent his Son as a sacrifice to clear away our sin and the damage they've done in our relationship with God. I just love the way that that's worded. I love the idea of it, and just kind of going through some of the stuff that I've been learning over the last year, and I've really been getting immersed with Trinitarian theology, thanks to my brother Brian, who's been kind of like sharing a lot of these ideas, and it's been so healing. And one of the things that I was reading about and studying the other day is one of the theologians that I listened to, he was saying, look, the Trinity has been loving since the beginning of time. Father, Son, Spirit. It's always been happening in their relationship, right? The Father loves the Son loves the Father, the Spirit loves them, they love him. It's all happening. It's this fluid, beautiful, great dance. It had no beginning. It always has been. Because if that love that existed between them had a beginning, then surely it could have an end. So if there was something that caused it to begin, if it wasn't the very nature of who God is, who he is at the core, if it's not because of that, it's because something happened or because there was a starting point, then at any given point, I might have to fear that there's an ending point. And I don't see that in the life of Jesus. I don't see that demonstrated for me. I don't see him like chewing his fingernails, worrying, wondering what's going to happen while he's living out and walking out these 33 years. I don't see that in his life. I see him operating from a place of being 100% sure of what's happening, 100% sure of this relationship, because he knows what's in it, because he's always been a part of it and he's operating from it. And as he's in this relationship with the Father here on earth, he's experiencing it and he's living it, and it's flawless and it's beautiful. Scott even kind of sort of spoke about that this morning, talking about that he didn't do anything that the Father and the Spirit weren't doing. He didn't say things. He did the things that were on. There was this unity. There was this continual movement. I love that Kevin just talks about it a lot. It was like, it's fluid, it's spherical. Like there's no rough edges, there's no starts and stops. It's just always happening. Why is that important? Because that's what he's asking us to be a part of. That's the life that we're being invited into. John starts in the Gospel of John, he opens it talking about that in the beginning was the Word, which we know to be Jesus. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He's not laying all of this out on accident. This is not just like, okay, I'm going to start rambling about some things. He's being intentional about where he's starting. Some of the church tradition or some of the theologians, I don't know that it's been proven or whatever, but some of them believe that actually some folks came to John and said, will you write something down? We've got a lot of crazy things happening. Will you write something down that says this is what we believe. This is the Trinity. This is why it happens. And he opens with that in the beginning they were face to face. There was never a break in relationship. There was never a gap. And from that place, he says, come. The Father is saying, come. The Holy Spirit saying, come. Jesus is taking your hand and pulling you into that relationship. And that's what we get to experience. And that's the freedom that this passage talks about. It's that freedom that we get to live from, that freedom of being put through. He showed us his love by showing us his nature. He said, this is who I am. This is who I am. So when you're operating in love, when you're living in love, when you're experiencing love, when you're thinking of the Father, because the truth is we all have a paint by numbers that we've decided to fill in as to what his face looks like. And for some of us, that's based on our relationship with our Father. For some of us, it's based on a relationship that we had of different kinds. Could be a teacher, could be a sibling, could be anything, could be a stranger. We have all these things that filter into that different picture, that different face that we've decided to put on the face of God. And he continually says, I want to show you my nature. I want to show you who I am. You're looking for love. I don't care who you are. You're looking for love. You're looking for the revelation of love because you were created to be in it and part of it. So you're looking for it. Your whole being craves to be inside of it. So we're constantly trying to paint little parts to put us in there. And he's like, no, let's just spend time together. Let's just be together. Let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you what I do. Let me tell you how I operate. Let me do these types of things. Let me show you my nature. Let me show you my heart. And I just kept thinking, I know we all kind of roll our eyes when we think of 1 Corinthians 13, because how many times have we heard it in a wedding ceremony or whatever? And to be honest, I haven't been a lot of those things in my marriage always. So, but I just kept thinking about that. There's that whole section, love is patient, love is kind. And I just started thinking about the Father being in there, that he's patient with me. He's kind to me. He's not arrogant. He's not, he doesn't take into account all my wrongs and put them up against me and say all these awful things. He bears all things. He believes all things. He hopes all things. He endures all things. And like Kevin was singing about this morning, he doesn't fail me, ever. He has his arms so deeply wrapped around me. He hears me in the middle of the night when I'm broken and when I'm hurting and when I'm lonely and when I'm afraid. He knows those things and he's in that moment. And I think so much I grew up with this mentality. And again, I'm sure it was my own idea because I heard my whole life, it's not religion, it's relationship. I heard all of these things, but I still grew up with this idea that Jesus came down because I'm grotesque. And he came into this situation and he's like, okay, we'll give her a way that she can kind of walk through this shower and clean herself up, and then I'll accept her on the other side of it. Is kind of this, I know it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but that's kind of the picture I had. That's the idea I had. I'm covered in sin. I'm really gross. And he wants to be with me. So as long as he can make this little path that I can walk, then once I get to a certain part of it, I'm going to be good to go and we can be in relationship together. And that'll probably be when I die because he'll finish the rest of it up on my way up, whatever, up or over, whatever that means. And instead, God's just been showing me these last 2 years, he's like, no, I came because I love you. I came because I wanted to be with you. I came because there was these ideas and these mentalities about my nature and about who I am that were wrong. And so Jesus came and he said, I'm going to reveal the Father to you. I want to show you who he is because you guys got it all wrong. And here we've traveled 2,000 years since then, and we've done our own journey of getting it all wrong. And it's just true, and that's okay. It's okay. There's going to be little parts that the Holy Spirit's going to put his finger on, I'm sure, for the rest of our lives, to where he's going to say, that's not the heart of the Father. That's not what he's about. That's not who he is. But the beautiful thing is that's shared in love. That's shared so he can show you how good he is. Instead of saying, I'm going to put this on me, because if you could take care of that, God will draw a little more near to you. And I think that's the way I've lived. Is thinking that when the Holy Spirit is pressing on something and saying, hey, let's deal with that, then in my mind it translates it to, if I can pretty that up, then God will come a little bit closer. And if I can take care of that thing, and if I can stop doing this, and if I could pray a little bit more, and if I could be more disciplined, and if I actually, witnessed and evangelized in the grocery store more, like if I actually set up camp, then God would walk with me and be with me. And I think he's just saying, first, Jamie, I just want you to come face to face. And let's just see what happens from there. Let me show you love. Let me show you my kindness, my goodness, my patience. Let me show you that I'm willing to, and you guys have all heard that story, I'm willing to just take you when you feel like you're at your most filthy place, and I'm going to wrap my arms all the way around you, and I'm not even concerned, and I don't even care about how dirty I'm going to get being close to you, because that's not even a thing. you know? And it's just such a beautiful, incredible, amazing place to be. And the truth is that the more we draw into it, the more we want to talk about it, the more we want to be that everywhere we go. Going on into verse 11 and 12, he says, dear friends, if God loved like this, we certainly ought to love one another. No one has seen God ever. But if we love one another, God dwells deeply within us, and his love becomes complete in us. Perfect love. It's perfect. Perfect means it's lacking nothing. It's not waiting. It's not waiting for me to do anything, for me to clean up, for me to get to a place, for me to reach a certain thing. God doesn't need anything to perfect his love. It was perfect before I was here. Yes. In the same sense, there's nothing I can do to take away from it because it's always been. It's always been. And I was thinking about this morning. I was driving here and I passed a police officer. And my first response always is like, check my speed. Like, how fast am I going? Am I doing something wrong? And I was thinking to myself, oh, this is so terrible. Here is this group of men and women who have, most of them, I'm certain, like devoted their lives to the protection of people, to loving, to caring, to order, to all of these types of things. But like all this stigma is tied to this one group of people who are really icky, or to my own places to where I've had to interact with the law because of the fact that I wasn't abiding it, you know? And I was like, man, that's so the Lord. Like, you know, there's been all this representation of the Father that's so good, and all of these things that we have available to see his goodness through worship, through music, through community, and just through sitting and being in his presence. Like, his goodness is so there. But then all of a sudden, one thing will happen. Somebody was talking this morning about, I think it was Chris, expectations. And because I tied that to who God is, then now, like, that's what I expect every time, you know? And it's like, again, God is just trying to take us right back to this place of saying, look, be with me. Let me show you face to face who I am. Let's take away all those ideas. Let's take away all those thoughts. Let's take away all those things. Let me show you who I am at my core and who I'm here to be. I love this story. There's one of the guys that I follow his teaching, Baxter Kruger. He tells this story of his son, and it's the best story in the world to me. And he's telling the story about how he got home from working or traveling or something one day, and he says that he went into the den, which I believe would be like normal people's living room. He's from Mississippi, you know. So he goes, I'm just kidding. Is that wrong? Should I not have said that? Is it fine?
Yeah,
can you scratch that out? Thank you. Anyway, so he's like, I'm in the den. I'm ready to watch a football game. I love football. He's all excited because he's finally home. He's able to rest. He's just going to sit on the couch and just watch this game. And he's like, I'm getting all comfortable. I'm setting all my stuff up, you know. And he's like, and I sit down. And he said, out of nowhere, like literally nowhere, because he didn't even know anybody was home, out of nowhere come these two like fireballs, like leaping from the other room onto the couch, and they jump on him. And it's his son and his son's friend from the neighborhood. And he's like, I don't know this kid. I've never met him, never seen him, never interacted with him, but here these two kids jump on me, and we're rolling on the floor, and we're laughing and wrestling, and, you know, all these things are happening. And he's like, and it was so much fun. It was such a blast, you know? And he said, but I just kept thinking about that because this child that was with his son was so comfortable just putting himself into that situation, even though they had never met. And why was that? Because of the fact that his son had said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to dress up in all this army gear. We're going to take all these things, and we're going to go jump on my dad, and he'll wrestle with us, and it'll be fun, and we'll have a great time. And his buddy's like, sweet, that sounds like a good time. Well, they have no interaction, right? But he learns in that moment, I can do this because of whose hand I'm holding. And he's like, I love that, because he said that to me, that's Jesus. Like, Jesus is like, this is the relationship I have with the Father. Let me grab your hand and let's just go have fun together. Let's go live together. Let's go roll around, have a great time, and just enjoy each other. And that's also the beautiful thing that we get to do for one another, is we get to show that. We get to show that perfect love, that Godhead love that's moving to where the Holy Spirit is saying, come, He's showing you different things. He's opening your heart and your eyes to who the love of the Father is and the goodness of God. Jesus is taking your hand, and you get to just respond by being in the presence of the Father and just enjoying who he is. John goes on to say, this is how we know. We are steadily living and deeply in him, and he is in us. He has given us life from his life and from his own Spirit. Also, we have seen for ourselves and continue to state openly that the Father sent his Son as Savior of the world. Everyone who confesses Jesus as God's Son participates continuously in an intimate relationship with God. We know it so well. We've embraced it heart and soul, and this love comes from God. To love and to be love. So we get invited into this love. We get to see who this love is. We get to see him in his real form. And the one who's saying, like, in this broken relationship, in the life that you live that's full of fear and control, he gets to come in and say, those aren't things in my nature, and I made you in my nature, so let's take you into my nature so you can leave those things behind that don't belong to you, that don't exist in love, that don't exist in hope, that don't exist in joy and peace, and all these things that God is, that we get to be a part of, that we get to sit at the table and we get to be face to face with. All of those things aren't in that conversation, because they're not your nature, they're not my nature, they're not his nature, and we were made in his nature. And so he wants to show us his nature. He wants to invite us into his nature so that we are brought into that nature, and in the same sense, then we can bring other people and say, this fear that you're living in, that's not what God made you for. God made you for love. God made you for joy. God made you for peace. Come, take my hand. Let's go jump on the couch and talk to him about it. And let's live in it, and let's experience it. Let's live loved. First of all, I mean, that's the first place that we start, right? Is that face-to-face place. Let's live loved. Let's look into the eyes of love. Let's be deep. Let's go deep. And through that place, then we can love, because it just comes out of who you are. As his nature transforms my nature should start doing the same things that his nature is doing, which is loving and living and setting people free. And out of that freedom, we just get to live just so liberated. This last part of the passage that I'm going to read here, it says, God is love, which is our reminder again. If you're feeling in a place this morning to where love feels lacking in your life, I just so encourage you to ask him to look you face to face. And he already is. It's more of a posture that we have to say, God, I want to look into your eyes. I want to see you. His attention's not divided. It's always on you. Yeah. Always on you. It says, when we take up permanent residence in the life of love, when we live in God and God lives in us, this way love has a run of the house. It becomes at home and mature in us so that we are free of worry on Judgment Day. Our standing in this world is identical with Christ. There is no room in love for fear. Well-formed love banishes fear. Since fear is crippling, a fearful life, fear of death, fear of judgment, is not one yet fully formed in love. It's the reminder, it's the understanding, it's the core, it's the hold of all of it. And I think if we can find freedom in it, I think we can live lives that are free. You know, I think I've grown up with this idea again, to where in my mind, if I could become, you know, a preacher, if you could do all of these things, or if you could, you know, serve the church in this way or do the thing at the church in this way, then maybe you'll have an impact for the kingdom. Maybe then you can show God's love. But in the meantime, I'm just going to sort of try to be kind to people, and maybe I could get them into a place that they can experience God's love. And I think what God is trying to remind us of this morning is that he's a father. And a father enjoys when you're out fishing. And a father loves to go to work and see what you do for a living. And a father wants you to raise your children with a home that's full of peace and safety. And a father loves to watch you even enjoy food. Preach. Mandy and I both love food. But I'm just saying, like, God is so excited, and his love is so much bigger than us consuming inside of a building to where we can keep everything in one place, and maybe we can get all the people in one place, and we can do all the things in one place. And maybe if we all act like this and do this thing and behave in this way, and man, why don't we pray more as a church? And why don't we do more as a church? And why don't we da-da-da? Well, I don't know. Maybe we're not spending enough time face to face. Maybe the brokenness that we're experiencing, that we're feeling, are things that we haven't brought before the Father. I had this moment this week. I was so frustrated with a situation and some people that were involved in it, and I'm just like, why? Why can't people just do this? You know, come on, don't act like you've not been there. Why can't this just happen? Why? I don't understand why these people can't do this thing the way that I would do it, which is the right way. You know, and it was the right way. Babe. Okay. Anyway, and in the midst of it, you know, God was just like, Jamie, what am I doing? What are you asking me what I'm doing right now? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, no. Have we traveled together this long that you've forgotten? Have we walked this far? Come on. Love. This is about love. This is a life of love. That is the commandment that was left to us. That is what we're supposed to walk in. And I cannot do it if I don't believe it comes from him. I can't muster these things. I can't. I don't have them. But his nature, who he is, he has them. He is them. And through him being them, I get to be in his presence, get immersed in it. And he reveals to me that he made me that way too. And through that, I was able to just spend some time in prayer, and I was praying for these people, and I fell deeper in love with them than I ever have. And God showed me a lot of things that they do way better about loving people than I do. And I was able to be inspired through it, and I was able to spend time in that situation, loving them and being with them. And I was like, wow, this is the life of God. And we weren't at church, and we weren't doing these super spiritual religious practices, but I felt more in tune with the heart of the Father and his heart for me and his heart for them than I ever have. And so here's the thing that I just want to encourage us with, and I'm going to close with this if you guys want to come on up and work. The thing that God is encouraging me with this week, that I want to encourage all of us, is how is he loving you? How is God loving you? What are the ways that he's showing his love to you every single day? Maybe that's your starting point. Maybe somebody this morning is saying, look, I feel afraid most of the time. I feel alone most of the time. I don't feel like I've ever looked in the face of the Father. Let's start there then. Let's start there. Go sit in his presence until you have looked into the eyes of love and you're deeply in love, and he shares his heart with you, and he shows you his goodness and his nature. And if you need assistance with that, we have people that will be over here at the end of service, and they will pray for you, or you can call me, or you can call other people. And it's going to actually be Leon and Audrey today. From there, let's take that and say, okay, where's the heart of the Father? How is he showing me love today? What are the ways that Jesus came and revealed God's love that I can walk out? What are those things? Because we are to love and be loved. We are to be loved first and then love. And so what are the ways that God is loving you? What is the ways that he's showing his love to you? And in that, let's show his love to one another. Let's show his love to one another when we grocery shop. Let's show his love to one another when we're frustrated with each other. Let's show his love to one another when we're at work and when we're doing all of these things that we're called to do that are all very spiritual, godly, incredible, amazing things. Let's be the very nature that he made us to be, but in that, let's understand that his nature is good and loving and kind.